Hello everyone, my name is Kay Woodgate. I'm a movement therapist at Move Beyond. And in this video I would like to chat to you about the principles of abdominal engagement and accessing your deep stabilizing muscles. Now that sort of thing is the holy grail of movement disciplines like yoga and Pilates, especially Pilates. But why is it so important? So some of us during times when we're looking forward to a recovery and training ourselves to get stronger are really looking for that inner deep strength to stabilize the core. The core is a set of muscles that is attaching to tissues deep around the pelvis and lower back, and when those muscles are functioning well, we have that beneficial deep tension, not superficial grippy tension, but beneficial deep tension to keep those tissues stable. It's like a stable bridge, it's like a stable foundation because the pelvis is your center of mass as a human machine. So for that human machine, for that human bridge to be stable, whether or not you're walking, standing on one leg, sprinting, whatever you may need to do, lifting weights, you need to be stable in your body. Now, some people are under the impression, for all sorts of reasons, that achieving deep stability is the case of squeezing and gripping. Now, that's understandable at first approximation, because if we need to kind of engage the bicep, we tend to think, oh, I'm squeezing my bicep and therefore my arm is strong. But that's a superficial muscle, any bicep. And in any case, squeezing any muscle and then going around your business thinking that this is now a strong muscle does not actually work like this. Because what if you need to squeeze that muscle even harder and you are already at the peak of your power? So for example, thinking that your bicep is strong, we're lifting a weight here now. What if that weight doubles or triples? You are already at your capacity. You haven't actually gotten any stronger by squeezing. We are training our muscle to be functional when it can contract and it can lengthen. And exactly the same principle applies to our abdominal and back muscles. So quite often in Pilates sessions that I run, movement therapy sessions that we have our classes with, people think that clenching the tummy or clenching the buttocks or doing anything like this keeps them really strong. That's not the case in a similar way that holding onto that bicep for dear life is not going to make that bicep necessarily strong. Again, that bicep might be short and strong temporarily, but what about the opponent on the other side of the arm? That guy never gets to work. That does not give us a functional arm in the long term, even in the medium term. So the same applies to tummy. When the tummy is clenched all the time, walking around, holding it in, it might give you a temporary cosmetic effect, a flatter belly, but actually nothing is learned by the body. So the body is going to be responsive to the day-to-day demands of life if it knows how to achieve beneficial tension and contract whenever the need occurs without you having to think about this. So when you lift a heavy weight, your body knows what to do. When you lift a light weight, the body knows it does not need to squeeze as hard. The squeezing hard as if you're protecting your belly against somebody punching you in the gut is called bracing. We don't want to walk around daily life bracing for potential impact all the time. In fact, we hardly ever need to do this. But this is very often exactly what happens in various exercise classes when thinking that we're working to rebuild our strength, we end up clenching everything around our midline. What happens when we do that? Well, first of all, we kind of break the natural relationship between our breathing, the ability of our brain and body to decide how much effort is needed to execute certain moves, and the output. So we break that relationship by deciding to squeeze. Secondly, we overthink things, and instead of having a natural flow of movement, when the brain and the body interact and things are happening, we end up having to decide what we think is best. It's a pretty difficult existence if you have to think about what to squeeze, where to squeeze. Imagine the action of walking. If you thought about, oh, I need to bring my right leg forward, place the foot on the floor, transfer the weight, then I need to engage the other leg, bring it through, bring it forward. It's just impossible. The same thing with the belly. The same thing in an exercise class. An exercise class should be a time when you polish and practice those patterns so they become second nature. That is the Holy Grail. That is your reflexive, automated core that you don't need to think about bringing in when you need to lift a weight, a heavy or lightweight shopping bags, a wheel of a car, a child, you name it, weights, you've got it. So we need to look at how to make your core and muscles reflexive, automatic, without the need to think. And for that, we need to work smarter, not harder. That's really important. So for today's video, I'd like you to practice switching off that desire to grip, that desire to squeeze and clench, and instead practice something much more smart, a lot more fine-tuned, and a lot more intuitive. I hope that makes sense. Let's have a look at this in close-up mode. There is a number of ways to illustrate how to achieve that better abdominal engagement and that reflexive core. But one way I'm going to show this to you now is by sitting sideways on, showing the profile of my tummy. And what I'm going to illustrate to you is what we can do in terms of working with the breath to achieve that optimal abdominal contraction. Now, there's a couple of things I would like you to visualize. First of all, we're going to talk about the concept of bracing, as if somebody's punching you in the gut and you're protecting your belly from sudden impact. Secondly, I would like you to experience what happens when you purposefully and strongly blow the air out and what happens to the shape of your belly. And thirdly, I would like us to go through a little exercise which hopefully will show you the slight difference you can experience in terms of what happens with your tummy, but it means a very, very big difference deep inside. So let's practice those three things. So first of all, I'm going to sit sideways onto you so you can see what's happening. So imagine that you have your hand on your tummy and imagine that there is somebody who's coming over to you and they want to punch you in the gut. Disregarding the improbability, hopefully, of this scenario, I want you to feel what happens when you squeeze all your belly muscles and feel the tension that arises around your tummy. So we can do this on the exhale. So if you give me a sharp, deep exhale and then pretend that somebody's punched you in the gut and do that for me on the exhale, and then feel what happens to your belly. Can you feel that everything around the top belly, bottom belly, sides of your tummy is potentially more tense? Right, and now relax this. Now, that is what quite often happens when people are given an instruction to engage their abdominals in a well-meaning, let's say, Pilates class. And what we do is we literally grip everything that we have. When we say we grip everything, we grip, as normal human beings, what is mostly available to us, which are really the superficial muscles. And although it looks nice cosmetically, we don't know what's happening deep underneath. And the deep underneath muscles might well be overridden, as in like suppressed by the superficial ones. And that's actually no good to us because it's the deep muscles that create the beneficial tension around our spine and pelvis. So bracing isn't actually necessarily achieving you that amazing engagement that you're after in your Pilates class. So let's examine the second scenario. Imagine that you've got a huge balloon that you want to blow up as quickly as possible. So if you have your balloon in front of you and then have your hands on your tummy, take a breath in, and then quick as you can, blow into that balloon. And you can try this a couple of times, and I want you to examine what happens where around your belly. So you might find that when you're blowing fast and hard, what might be felt by you after a few goes is that as human beings, we're very, very good at squeezing the air out fast with the low portions of our rib cage. So we'll get that sort of tension around these areas right under the rib cage. And you will also feel that you get an indentation, some of us will. At the same time, what might happen in the midline of the belly, and I will illustrate this to you as best as I can now. If I blow fast and hard, a lot of us will find that the lower belly actually pops outwards. Now that is no good to us, because when the lower belly pops outwards, what's happening is what we're finding is the top of the belly engages, squeezes and contracts, but we've lost access to the lower tummy portions. Again, that illustrates to us that we've lost a big portion of our deep corseting muscles. Not so good anymore. So blowing fast, hard and with a big effort results us using the rib cage very, very well. Lower abdomen, perhaps not so. And then do this again and now feel what's happening down in the pelvic floor. If you blow fast and hard, some of us will find that the pressure feels like it's dropping down to the pelvic floor. And some people might feel a sense of heaviness in the pelvic floor. Now that's definitely not good, because you can bet that if you're doing this as an exercise here and now with me, you will be doing a little bit of this in your day-to-day life, and all of that will squeeze your lower ribs and put pressure down to the pelvic floor and put pressure out into the front of your abdominal wall. Definitely not so good anymore. Now here's the third thing that I want you to try. Now I want you to relax the areas around the bottom of your rib cage and relax your lower back. Make sure that you're not doing a big arch with your back. So you can sit back on your pelvis nicely. You don't have to sit back on your heels, by the way. This is just for illustration purposes. And have your hand lightly on your tummy. Now have a sense that your upper belly is nice and light and soft. And keep that sense of softness as if you've got cotton wool there and you don't want to scrunch up the cotton wool. Imagine it's protecting your lower ribs. Now protect your lower ribs with that imaginary cotton wool, and now I want you to blow into a balloon that's kind of delicate, and you've got all the time in the world to fill this amazing beautiful balloon. And have your hand lightly on your belly. Relax your ribs, relax your lower back, and when you blow nice and slow into this wonderful balloon, keep that sense of cotton wool around your upper belly, and do not do any effort to squeeze that air out. Just let your air come out nice and long and gentle. So if you start to blow, and that might be quite a long exhale or a shorter one, depending on your breath capacity. hopefully you can feel that there's a bit of a difference. If previously your abdominal wall might have popped out, or your sides might have indented, or nothing much might have happened, or again you could have had that deep connection somewhere else, but maybe some people felt heaviness on the pelvic floor, with a slow mindful exhale, see whether that feels any different. See whether you can feel more softness around your upper belly and a little bit of something different in the lower belly. So this is what I mean by working smarter and not harder. To achieve that deep contraction, and you might not feel it, but your hand will tell you that something is deepening, like almost you're acquiring a little bit of a corset that gently draws itself in. You do not have to feel those deep muscles working. Why is that? Because they are postural muscles, and they are therefore more difficult to feel because they're not supposed to fatigue. They're not supposed to tire, because they spend all of your waking time holding you up without being exhausted. So you can't feel them in exactly the same way. Therefore, you can't actually fatigue them quite so easily unless they're completely out of condition. But first of all, you need to find them. So that sense of deep, slow tensioning is what we're looking for to achieve that all-important core engagement. I hope that you found this video useful. Let me know if you've got any questions. And remember, you can join my classes in person and online on Monday mornings online, and Monday mornings, Friday mornings and Wednesday evenings around Wimborne, Dorset in person, where you can learn all of these things and so much more. I also do online one-to-ones with people all over the world, and you can seek specific advice. Feel free to reach out for a complimentary chat where we can find out what sort of trouble you're having with your recovery and how I can help you and move this forwards for you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.